I'm about to wash this nasty Mini Cooper with 3 gallons of water, no foam cannon, and I can do it all in less than 45 minutes. What's going on, guys? Luke here with Wilson Auto Detailing. Now, in order to get this done, I'm going to be using 3 different tools primarily. Number 1, the handheld IK foam pump sprayer. I'm also going to be using the IK Foam Pro pump sprayer, which is basically a really large version of the handheld. And then I've also just got my traditional pump sprayer just filled up with water. Now, just a couple of disclaimers. I'm not intending to review all of these tools at some high level, but we will talk about the specs very briefly. We'll reserve the review for another day. The reason I'm showing you guys how to do this is because as a professional detailer in the winter time, there are different times where you might have to do things without running water so as to avoid water freezing on the paint, foam freezing on the paint. Maybe you don't have access to water because the spigot's frozen, or just because it's wintertime, it's cold, and you don't want to introduce a bunch of water. There's 1,000 reasons why you might need to do this, and I've developed a few different strategies along the way in my years of detailing. So we're starting with the wheels. Let's take a quick look at the sidewalls of the tire and the wheel face in the inner barrel. They're obviously really, really dirty, lots of brake dust caked on, and so this is actually a good start to a video of, hey, how do you clean this really difficult stuff to clean like brake dust if you don't have access to running water? It seems maybe impossible. Now, the very first thing I'm doing is filling up the handheld IK foam pump sprayer with some water and diluting the Dark Fury wheel cleaner from Superior Products about 4-to-1. One of the reasons why I'm going to use a foam pump sprayer here is because in theory, I think sometimes when you use a foam pump sprayer and it sort of atomizes the chemical when it comes out of the bottle, it can sort of make it a little bit easier to clean up the brake dust rather than my traditional using a pressure washer, spraying it directly onto the wheel. I like to kind of foam it up and get maybe a little bit more work out of the chemical. At least that's the theory I'm going with. So I'm treating both the sidewall of the tire as well as the face and inner barrel of the wheel. I'm going to scrub everything with a basic wheel brush, and I'm going to use my Easy Detail brush for the inner barrel of the wheel. And then I'm going to start rinsing with my larger IK foam pump sprayer. Now, I only have filled this up with water. It's nothing more than a rinsing tool for me, and this is my strategy, at least for this scenario, in avoiding the need for running water. Obviously, number 1, it is going to take more time to rinse off a wheel and tire when you're using this method. One thing I want to note is that, ironically, when you're using a tiny little spout like the end of the wand of this IK foam pump sprayer, it's actually easier to get in the inner barrel of the wheel and sort of rinse that area out. So in some ways it takes longer, and in some ways it's a little bit easier to rinse those really tight cracks and crevices out. The other thing I would mention here is that the IK foam pump sprayer, this tall version, is actually meant more to pre-foam a car, and so I'm using it kind of in an off-label way here, and it doesn't spray out the water as directly as just a traditional pump sprayer would. The exact same thing can be done, as I'm showing in this video, with a traditional non-foaming pump sprayer, and you're going to get a little bit less air out of the tip, and it might go just a little bit faster, but for the sake of what I'm showing you, washing without water, it's really going to serve the same purpose. Now, I also want to take note that when you don't have access to running water, the wheels, tires, and wheel wells will always be the most difficult area to clean, and it'll always require the most rinsing. You can expect this area to take a longer time if you're using an external water source that's not a water spigot like I'm doing here. I also want to note that my highest priority when I'm rinsing off the wheels is not necessarily to remove every single ounce of the product. Dark Fury is an alkaline cleaner. It's non-acidic. It's not going to damage anything on the wheels if there's some residue left over. And because of what I'm going to do later in the video, washing the entire car without a water spigot and go ahead and rinsing more of the wheel, I don't have to remove all of the residue right now. So if you're doing this and you're a mobile detailer, you don't have to make sure that all of the chemical gets off. Get 90%, 80% off and go ahead and move on with your life. Now, the next area of a wash with no running water that I'm going to move to is going to be the bugs. And while you guys are looking at the before picture of the front bumper and sort of the hood of this car, seeing that it's really dirty, lots of bugs stuck in the black trim and the paint and all that sort of stuff, like any normal daily driver car, I also want to highlight here that you can see that often the approach with a no running water car wash is really going from piece to piece of the car or section to section and really deciding on what chemical you're going to use to address that area rather than just using water and the pressure from a pressure washer, which in some sense is a little bit easier. You're dividing the car into sections and saying, here's my chemical for section 1, section 2, section 3. Luckily, Dark Fury is a really great bug cleaner as well, so I'm keeping it diluted 4-to-1. And as I'm spraying it all on there, I'm going to let it sit for 2, 3, 4 minutes. In the wintertime, often overcast, often below freezing or close to freezing temperatures in a lot of parts of the United States, it can actually be an opportunity to let chemicals sit on paint for a little bit longer than you would in the summertime where it might flash dry. And this gives me an opportunity to let the chemical work in a situation where I actually need the full force of the chemical because I'm not getting a pressure washer in this scenario. After all of that, I'm going to come in with a basic wash mitt or a microfiber towel, scrub that area, and then I'm going to rinse it again with my larger IK foam pump sprayer. Now remember, like I said, I'm not using the foam aspect of the IK spray. I'm just using it right now to go ahead and rinse everything. Obviously, it takes a little bit more time to rinse the front bumper, but once again, this is where I'm not trying to remove all of the residue. I want to remove 80 to 90%, and then I'm going to move on. After the bugs, I'm going to treat the lower rocker panels all over the car, including that black trim that lines the bottom of this Mini Cooper everywhere, and I'm going to simply spray again with the Dark Fury diluted 4:1, and I'm going to let it sit there for just a little while before I come in again with either a wash mitt or a microfiber towel, scrub those lower rocker panels, and go ahead and rinse with the IK foam sprayer. You can see here that in some ways, when I don't have an external water source, I'm breaking up my wash into most dirty to most clean areas of the car, moving from wheels and tires to bugs, then lower rocker panels. Now, day to day out in the elements as a mobile detailer, I probably would not be foaming down a car like this, but because I've got the IK foam pump sprayer handheld out, you can fill this up with a product like Dirt Buster from Superior Products, which is what I'm using here. It works as a great foam cannon and agitation wash. I'm using it about 5:1 because I want to get a lot of foam, and I'm going to go ahead and start spraying it down with my IK foam pump sprayer, and you can see how much foam is coming out. And really, this is just mimicking a foam cannon wash, okay? So I'm doing it for the sake of the video. This is taking a little bit more time. This would probably, in most cases, push the wash to over an hour of time frame. The reason why I don't think a foam cannon pre-treatment like this is really necessary is because rinseless washes like Optimum No Rinse are extremely effective without previous foam cannon washes. And in addition to that, a foam cannon pre-foam stage is really not conducive unless you do have external running water. So this is a bit of an exception, but showing you what these tools are capable of doing. And as I rinse off the foam, this is another reason why I don't necessarily suggest it. It's just going to take a really long time. In addition to that, it's worth noting that in a pre-foam stage, part of why you're getting a lot of that surface dirt off is because of the pressure from a pressure washer in conjunction with the foam cannon. And when you break one of those things out of that equation, you're not getting the same efficacy. And so it just makes more sense to go into this next stage. Now, at this point, I'm going to start filling up my larger IK pump sprayer with Optimum No Rinse. It's going to be diluted probably close to like 100 or 200 to 1. I can fill the whole thing up, and that's going to be my entire rinseless wash solution. The way that I approach this is very, very simple. Number one, I want to have a lot of product because there are certain areas I want to blast, not just with the solution itself, the soap solution. I want to be able to rinse certain areas as well, like the windowsill area, right? That's an area where a lot of dirt and nastiness kind of accrues. I want to be able to use some of the pressure from the pump sprayer to kind of flush that area out, not just with chemical, but with the water, right? And so I'm going to be treating each area of the car in sections. This is one of the advantages of a rinseless wash, is that you don't have to wash everything at once and get everything wet and get water spots and overspray. You can really do things one thing at a time. And so what you're going to see here is a very systematic approach. Number one, spray the entire section down with Optimum No Rinse water solution rinseless wash. You're also going to see me flooding certain areas on purpose. After that, I come in with a fully drenched wet microfiber towel. It's folded into fourths. I'm going to go up and down or side to side on the windows, moving down the sections. I've already gotten those lower rocker panels, so I don't necessarily have to worry about the dirt there. And after that, you can see my goal is not to dry everything. That microfiber towel wash is just to start to pull off the surface dirt. I then come in with my waffle weave microfiber towel, folded into fourths again, and then I'm going to come in and dry things. That's the entire process. So I want you guys to come in and look at the after result here of the rinseless wash on this particular section, and you can see the paint looks really, really fantastic. Windows look really, really fantastic. Even those areas that I flooded that I didn't have a pressure washer to address, like that windowsill area, again, looks very, very good. So that process gets repeated in all of these 4 sections around this Mini Cooper, the front, the back, and both of the sides. Rinse with the rinseless wash. Use as much as you want. Flood the areas where you need more running water in some sense to flood that dirt out. Come in with a wet microfiber towel to clean, pull off the surface dirt. Follow up with the waffle weave towel. You'll also notice if you look at the windows in certain areas, I'm not worried about getting all the streaks off because the Optimum No Rinse solution doesn't really leave streaks as it dries or flashes in real time. And so it's another area where it just speeds up my process. I'm not having to nitpick every small little detail. Now, the final thing I'm going to be doing here is a little bit of an over-the-top thing, but I want this to kind of pop because with a rinseless wash, you're not getting all the advantages of a true car wash in some sense. And so I want the windows to shine and the black trim to shine and the paint to shine as much as possible. So I'm going to just spray everything down with the Optimum No Rinse solution, or if you've got the IK foam sprayer and it's just filled up with water, you can just rinse the whole car with water. And then I'm going to follow up with Formula 4 spray wax, very simply misting all of these areas, and then coming in with my waffle weave as a final drying to basically make everything pop after it's been cleaned with the Optimum No Rinse. And in some sense, the ONR does shine the paint. This is just going to add another level of intensity. So you guys can now see the after result of the entire vehicle So not 1 ounce of running water has been used to clean this Mini Cooper. So number 1, it is absolutely possible to do things without running water. Number 2, certain areas will always take longer than others, like wheels, tires, wheel wells, bugs, or if you're going to pre-foam something and then rinse it. The rinsing stage is going to take the longest amount of time. Oftentimes, it's not necessary for a detailer to do the entire thing without water, but in some cases, in some winter, summer months, you might want to do certain parts with no water, like you can use water for the wheels in the summertime, but let's say you don't have a DI tank and you don't want to get water spots, you use what I just showed you for the paint and the windows so that you can do things in sections and in layers rather than having to let water sit. You can pull any of these things out for your own strategic use in your professional detailing world, and I know it's going to seriously help you. So there it is, a full car wash with no running water. I'll link up all the tools and products I used in this video below, and if you want a full list of everything I suggest as a pro detailer to anybody who's starting out, check out the free resource I have called the Pro Detailing Toolbox below. It'll list all the tools and products you should buy at a discounted rate and tell you exactly how to use them so you don't waste time and money like I did. And if you got value from this video, you'll probably also enjoy the one on the screen here where I show you how to avoid water spots washing a car in direct sun without deionized water. So click that to learn exactly how to do it cheaply and quickly. And as always, from Luke here at Wilson Auto Detailing, remember, a great detailer is always learning, and I'll see you in the next video.